My name is Clara. I am 53 years old. Many years ago, I worked for a very rich family. Their home was large and full of beautiful things. The rooms were wide, the gardens green and full of flowers, and the furniture soft and shiny. I cleaned the floors, washed the dishes, and helped in the kitchen every day. The father's name was Martin, the mother's name was Grace, and their little boy was called Leo. I liked my job very much. I felt comfortable in that house and thought I would stay there for many years. The family owned many valuable things: gold lamps, silver spoons, and old paintings that looked very expensive. Grace had many pieces of jewelry, rings, necklaces, and watches. She loved one gold watch more than anything else. She wore it every day and never let it out of her sight. I knew it was special to her, so when I cleaned her room, I was always very careful. But one morning, everything changed. Grace could not find her gold watch. She looked everywhere, in her bedroom, in the kitchen, even in the garden. Then she asked her husband Martin and little Leo, but they had not seen it. Finally, she turned to me. "Clara," she said, "did you see my watch?" I said softly, "No, ma'am, I haven't seen it." She looked at me for a long time, her eyes sharp and full of doubt. I felt my heart drop. Something in the air changed that moment. That afternoon, Martin called me to the living room. Grace stood beside him, her arms crossed. Little Leo hid behind her dress. Martin's voice was hard when he spoke. "Clara," he said, "Grace's gold watch is missing. We have searched everywhere. We trusted you, but now we are not sure." I tried to speak, but my throat felt dry. "Sir, I didn't take it," I whispered. He didn't listen. He said I must leave the house at once. Grace said nothing. She didn't even look at me. Leo stayed quiet, clutching her hand. My hands shook as I packed my small bag. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. I walked out of the big house that once felt like home. I sat on the street with my bag beside me, watching people walk past as if I didn't exist. The world felt cold and cruel. I thought of the garden, the laughter, and little Leah's smile. I thought of the trust I had lost. I knew I had done nothing wrong, yet they believed I was a thief. I stayed there until evening, feeling lost and broken. When the sun went down, I realized I had nowhere to go. My small bag had only a few clothes and some coins. My legs felt weak as I began to walk. Near a park, I found a bench and sat down. It was hard and cold, but it was all I had. I tried to sleep, but my mind was full of sadness. The next morning, my back hurt and my clothes were dirty. I walked to a small cafe and used my last coins to buy a piece of bread. The woman behind the counter looked at me with cold eyes, as if she didn't want me there. I sat by the window and ate slowly. Then I went to the market to ask for work. I asked many people, but no one needed help. Some said no, some didn't even answer me. A man selling fruit told me to move away from his stand. My heart felt heavy. I walked until the sky turned orange. I sat again near the park, tired and hungry. I thought about my life before everything went wrong. I missed the sound of Leo's laughter and the smell of fresh bread from the kitchen. I wondered if they missed me too. Maybe they had already forgotten me. Maybe they were happy without me. Then I heard someone calling my name, Clara. I looked up. A woman was running toward me. It was Grace. Her face was red from running, her hair messy. In her hand, she held something small and shiny. My heart started to beat faster. She came close and opened her hand. In it was the gold watch. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Clara, she said, her voice shaking, we found it. It had fallen behind the big chair in the living room. We found it when we moved the furniture. I am so sorry. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I stared at the watch, then at her. I was happy they found it, but my heart still hurt. They had not believed me. They had thrown me out without even looking twice. Grace said softly, "Please, come back. We miss you. Leo cries for you every night." I didn't answer. I just looked at her. I remembered how cold her eyes were when she told me to leave. I remembered that long night on the bench. I wanted to forgive her, but it wasn't easy. She continued, "Martin feels terrible too. He says he made a mistake. We both did. Please, Clara, come home. You'll have your room again, your work, everything." I stayed still. My voice wouldn't come out. Trust is like glass. Once broken, it's never the same again. Grace's tears fell. "I understand," she whispered. "If you can't forgive us, I understand. I just wanted you to know the truth." I nodded slowly. Then I picked up my bag and began to walk away. She called my name again, but I didn't turn back. As I walked through the streets, I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing. I didn't want to return to the house that broke my heart. I wanted a new beginning. I passed a small bakery with warm yellow light in the window. Inside, a woman was putting bread into baskets. She looked kind. I stood there for a moment, then walked inside. The smell of fresh bread wrapped around me like a soft blanket. The woman looked up and smiled. "Good evening," she said. "Hello," I said shyly. "Do you need help here? I can clean or carry things." She looked at me carefully. Her name was Rosa. She said she and her husband, Daniel, owned the bakery. She looked at my tired face and said after a moment, "You can help in the mornings. It's not much money, but you can have food and a small place to sleep." Tears filled my eyes, but I blinked them away. "Thank you," I said softly. Rosa showed me a little room behind the bakery. It had a bed, a table, and a small window. It was simple but warm. I sat on the bed and felt something I hadn't felt in days: hope. The next morning, I woke up early and started work. I swept the floor, cleaned the tables, and washed the windows. Rosa smiled when she saw how hard I worked. Daniel gave me a fresh roll of bread. It was soft and warm, and I felt tears again, this time happy ones. Days passed, and I began to feel alive again. Rosa and Daniel were kind. They never looked at me with suspicion. They trusted me. One evening, Rosa sat with me after the bakery closed. She asked about my life. I told her a little about the family, the lost watch, and how they sent me away. She listened quietly and said, Sometimes good people suffer because of others' mistakes, but that pain can make you stronger. Her words touched my heart. Weeks passed. One afternoon, as I cleaned the bakery window, I saw a woman and a boy across the street. It was Grace and Leo. My breath caught. Leo waved his little hand, smiling. Grace looked at me with sad eyes and gave a small smile. Then they walked away. I stood there for a long time, watching them disappear into the crowd. I thought about running after them, but I didn't. I wasn't the same woman anymore. My heart had changed. I had learned that love without trust is like a house with no foundation. It falls apart. When I turned back, Rosa saw my face. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "You are safe here, Clara." I smiled faintly. Thank you. That means a lot. As time went by, the bakery grew busier. People loved Rosa's bread, and soon I was helping more customers. Daniel sometimes whistled while baking, and the place felt full of life. One evening, Daniel gave me a small envelope. Inside was my first week's pay. I held the money in my hands and felt proud. It was not much, but it was mine. I had earned it honestly. I began saving little by little. I dreamed of one day having my own small bakery, a place filled with kindness, not suspicion. My heart still carried old wounds, but they hurt less each day. One sunny afternoon, Rosa handed me a letter. My name was written on it in soft, neat writing. I opened it carefully. It was from Grace. She wrote about Leo, about how he missed me, and about how sorry she was. She said she hoped that one day I could forgive them and visit again. I read the letter several times. I could hear her voice in the words. I could see Leo's smile in my mind. I folded the letter and put it in my pocket. That evening, Rosa noticed I was quiet. I told her about the letter. She listened, then said simply, "Follow your heart." I thought about her words all night. The next morning, I packed a small bag. I told Rosa and Daniel I would be gone for a day. They smiled and wished me luck. My heart beat fast as I walked toward the old neighborhood. When I reached the big house, I stood outside the gate for a long time. Memories came back, both good and painful. Finally, I rang the bell. Grace opened the door. She looked older and tired. Without speaking, she stepped aside to let me in. Leo ran to me and hugged me tightly. My eyes filled with tears as I held him. Grace's eyes were wet too. "I'm so sorry, Clara," she whispered again and again. "We should have trusted you." We sat in the garden where I used to work. The air smelled of roses. Leo showed me his new toys and told me about school. Grace listened as I told her about the bakery, about Rosa and Daniel, and about how kind they were. As the sun began to set, I stood up. Grace asked, "Will you stay for dinner?" I smiled gently. "Thank you, but I have to go home." "Home," I said, and I meant the bakery, the place where I had found peace. I hugged Leo and kissed his forehead. Then I shook Grace's hand. I didn't feel anger or pain anymore, only peace. As I walked away, I thought about everything I had lost: the watch, the trust, the home. But I also thought about everything I had found: strength, kindness, and a new beginning. Sometimes losing something shows you what truly matters. And sometimes life gives you a second chance, not to go back, but to move forward with a stronger heart.